blackberry. Gotta love it, gotta hate it. You know, as a sheep farmer, it can be a real curse. It's an invasive weed and our sheep get hooked up in it all the time. Luckily for me, this is the only plant on my farm and it's in my garden. It has a fantastic berry. We also can use the leaf as a herbal tea. I'm Clint Waghorn and you're on Wild Wisdom. Today I thought we'd do a forage walk around my house, around my garden, down the side of the road, across the farm and into the bush. I thought we'd have a look at a few basic, simple New Zealand native edibles and a few common non-native edibles. It's not going to be super in-depth, it's more aimed at those of you who may be just starting out on this journey of finding edible food in the wild. And also it's going to be related specifically to the area that I live in, because wherever you go in New Zealand, the edibles change. It's become seasonal. They vary from altitude, from sea level to the high mountains, from top of the North Island to the bottom of the South Island. The type of vegetation changes in the forest systems you're in. In my particular area, I live at 620 metres above sea level, so it's a cold, wet climate. Our forests are dominated by red beech and not a lot of diversity, so we're a little bit limited here what we can find as far as edibles go, but I'm still going to go out and I'm going to show you what there is. In fact, how little there can be, really, as far as solid food goes. There are definitely foods out there that can help you in any survival situation. And having a little bit of knowledge could save your bacon. So let's go for a wander and see what's out there. This is a dwarf stinging nettle. It grows throughout my veggie garden like a weed. It also grows on the forest floor. Now this is a superfood. It's fantastic. You can cook it up, steam it, and the sting disappears. Eat all the leaf, boil it up, drink the water, makes a great tea. This is tarata or lemonwood, so can't eat it as such, but definitely a lemony scent to it. So you can actually use the leaves a bit like a bay leaf, put it in your tucker or perhaps with your fish. It has a real lemony flavour to it, so it's something to remember. Okay, this is a cabbage tree growing in some planting around the house. I'm going to show you the edible portion of it because a lot of the cabbage trees in the forest are really hard to get at. So in the centre here of the foliage there will be a shoot. Here we go. So this is a new growth shoot in the middle there, and you can actually cut it off and slice it up and eat it a bit like a leek, I suppose. Pretty good food source, but the trouble is, in the wild, in the bush, it can be really hard to get at. Usually the trees are just too big, so you either need to make a ladder or find something that's fallen down, or if you're really good at climbing, I guess climb a tree, but yeah, that could be a bit dodgy. But it is potentially a good food source. I think now we'll go for a ride down the road on the bike, and I've seen quite a few edibles down the side of the road, and it's a good place to actually point them out to you. Then we'll head off across the farm. New Zealand flax or harakeke has a multitude of uses. Now, this here is the last year's dead seed heads, and they make a fantastic tinder. Okay, nice and crunchy and dry, and the old seed heads are a bit like paper, so you can use them to make a little tinder bundle for a bow drill or for lighting a fire with your ferro rod. Fantastic. The dry stalks are good floats when you're using a fishing line. You could actually strap a heap together, make a big bundle, and make a raft if you had to, or some kind of flotation device. Very, very useful. The leaf itself, of course, is well known as a cordage. You can use it like this, strip it down into finer pieces. You can strip off the waxy layer on the outside and twist your fibre up into very, very strong cordage. At the base of the plant, you find these dead leaves. Okay, a bit like this. Also great tinder. Just break it down into fine fibre and roll it up into a little ball, and you'll have a terrific tinder for lighting a fire. So have a multitude of uses. Okay, bush lawyer, absolute curse when you're walking through the trees and it grabs hold of you, but it has a couple of uses. One of them is as a tea. It's actually a member of the rubus family, so it's closely related to blackberry. So you can brew up the leaves into a tea. It's not too bad. The female plant actually produces a berry, so it has a nice orange bright berry which will ripen up in the autumn and in the winter. So if you can find it, and if you can beat the birds and the possums and the rats and everything else, it's quite nice to nibble on. So anyway, that's bush lawyer for you. Now I thought I'd mention this because this plant does actually grow wild throughout New Zealand, and you can find it in all sorts of places. So it's a fantastic source of greens. This is plantain. It's a long narrow leaf plantain, also comes in a broadleaf form, but you can eat it raw or cooked. Full of goodness. Now also has a medicinal use. You can crush it up, put it onto skin wounds. It's also used as a treatment for stings and that kind of thing. So it's well known, widespread. Keep an eye out for it. Well, this is a great spot on the side of the road to point out a few common edibles. So first off, white clover, nothing wrong with it. Also, of course, we've got red clover. You can eat that alright. And this one with the yellow flower, that's a legume. That's lotus, that's fine to eat. And then up here we have, of course, probably the most useful plant in the New Zealand forest. Can't eat it, but it is rangiora, bushman's dunny paper. So if nothing else, and you're out in the New Zealand bush and you're starving and you can find nothing to eat, at the very least you'll have a clean ass when you bend over and kiss it goodbye. Well, this is Kia Fern. You'll find it all along the sides of the road. It's quite common. You'll find it in the forest, around the creek margins, and little damp spots. And the young juvenile growth like this is quite edible, as are the little fiddleheads. So keep an eye out for it. Once you get your eye on, you'll spot this stuff absolutely everywhere. Sometimes the young growth actually gets a reddy, orangey colour to it. It'll be quite soft, so it becomes quite palatable. Dandelion. Most of you probably know what it is. It's a yellow flower. Don't confuse it with the buttercup, because the buttercup is poisonous. Okay, has these big indented leaves on it. Has a taproot. This is actually a ripper specimen. See these big taproots? You eat the whole part of the plant, but these taproots in particular, you can snap them off and make coffee. And if you've been watching the channel, you would have seen me make coffee on one of my trips. So you can dry them out, roast them, crush them up, makes great coffee. So dandelion, quite edible. Don't eat too much in one hit. Like any plant, just small amounts. Be careful of your ID. Come on, Spy, you coming? Coming for a walk? Come on. This is a small remnant piece of forest in the middle of the farm. It's got a few bits and pieces I thought I'd point out before we go down to the main forest. So I'm just looking right here. This is actually a big old myri tree right here. Not a fantastic example. There are much bigger trees around. A lot of the myri were one of the first trees to be cut out of the bush by the early settlers because it makes fantastic firewood. Burns very, very hot, and it's possibly the hottest burning native timber in New Zealand. It can burn wet or dry, which is fantastic. Also has a little orange berry during the late or during the autumn and winter, early winter, which is quite edible. Once again, you've got to beat the pests to it. So I'm just looking around the forest as we go to see what else we can find in here that might be edible or useful in some manner. There's quite a lot of horopito here, or pepperwood. Now, can't actually eat it, but those of you who like hot spicy foods may like to try it or use it. It's very, very hot, okay, also known as the New Zealand ice cream tree, so it's caught many a school child out, and you'll know why if you're chewing a leaf. But you can actually dry the leaves out and use them as a seasoning or garnishing. Not for my delicate palate, it's a bit spicy for me. But the horopito also makes a good bow drill wood. So you're looking for a piece of dead standing material, and I can see a bit right here which would probably work. As you can see, this one has died. We could probably cut into this. It's probably bone dry inside. Probably make a bow drill out of that if we really had to. If nothing else, it would certainly make good firewood, dead standing like that. So that's horopito. So we'll head into the interior of this patch and see what else we can find. Those of you who have been following the Wild Wisdom channel for a while will have seen me eat onga onga. Now, it's not for the faint-hearted, and all the guidebooks will tell you it's toxic and poisonous and don't touch it. And I still recommend you follow their advice. So I've used it on myself and I've had no ill effects. The trick I've found is to scratch all the long poisonous hairs off the leaf and cook it. All the sting goes, as with the dwarf stinging nettle. So for me personally, it's been fine and a great source of food when you've got nothing else. But like everything, I wouldn't eat heaps in one sitting. Small amounts seem to be okay. I advise caution, and if you're going to have a crack at it, do it in small amounts, because different people react in different ways, okay? Same with the sting. It can be nasty stuff, and some people it doesn't affect too much, others the effects can be quite dramatic, so be very careful. Okay, it grows as quite a big tree or big shrub, and if you don't know what it is, you soon will if you walk into it. It's nasty stuff. It's onga onga, or the New Zealand tree nettle. We've also got something a bit different down here on the ground, which I will show you. Okay, this here is lesser burdock, and that is the seed. There it is there. See that there's a little burr on it, little seed, a bit like a giant bitty bit in a way. It's a bit of a curse as a sheep farmer because it gets stuck in the sheep's wool, so I don't eat it, but I know you can eat all parts of that plant. It grows in the lower North Island of New Zealand and through the South Island, so I believe the roots in particular are used in Asian cooking, so those of you who are into Asian cooking will probably know all about it. So there's a bit of it around here. It's a curse, like I say, pops up in the middle of my paddock or around the bush edges. I often spray it out, or spray it, or grub it to try and get rid of it because it gets stuck in the sheep's wool. It's a bit of a friggin' pest as far as I'm concerned, but it is edible. Not a lot of variety in this little patch of bush because it's unfenced at the moment and the stock get in here, so there's no regeneration at all. So I'm actually planning on fencing this in the next few months to try and get it regenerating before we get a total canopy collapse, because that's what's going to happen as the standard trees get old. There's nothing regenerating, nothing regrowing, we're replacing the old trees. We're just going to have a total collapse and that'll be it. The seed will be here, it's just a matter of getting the stock out, keeping up with our pest control, keeping the possum numbers and the rat numbers down, and it'll soon regenerate itself. So quite looking forward to that. Quite neat having these little patches of bush around. Increases the amount of birds and the diversity on the farm. Great shelter, of course, shade around the edges as well for the livestock. So I can't see a lot else in here. I think we'll probably head down to the main forest, go for a wander. Well, never underestimate how useful the New Zealand crown fern can be. Okay, this is it here. Not edible, but fantastic track marker. And that white underlay there underneath the fern shows up really good at night, particularly in a torchlight. You can also, of course, use it as a mat bedding or flooring around your camp if you've got nothing else. So it does have its usage. You can lay it down on the ground and lay fresh meat on it, keep it clean, all sorts of little uses like that. So it's a curse when you're hunting because it's really noisy and difficult to get through, but can be useful too. You can see a bit more variety of vegetation in here because it's been excluded, stock have been excluded, so there's a few red deer running around that will impact the forest, but they're not in huge numbers in this area. But there's quite a lot of regen coming up, which is great. This particular type of forest is dominated by red beech. So red beech is the big canopy tree. and there's a few podocarps, but it just does not have the diversity of some forests. So you don't get quite the same bird life, and trying to find edibles can be really hard work. So you really got to look around at those margins, creek edges, clearings, slips, and where there's a bit more light. You wouldn't survive too long in here without some form of protein. Possum, eel, of course in the old days it would have been birds, but you can't do that now. So yeah, the cicadas cranking up, they're beautiful. It's mid-February, not a lot fruiting going on yet, it's a bit early. In some years there's good fruiting in the forest, and some years there's none. So fruit can be really hit and miss in the New Zealand bush. I mean, if it does fruit, if the forest does fruit well, or some plants fruit well, you've got to compete with the pests, of course, the possums, the rats, the birds. And if you're in an area, if you're lucky enough to be in an area where there's pest control that's been done, then you've got a chance of a feed from fruit, as long as you've got a bit of an idea of what you're doing. They are fruiting trees which you probably should not eat. We'll do a bit of a circuit back out to the edge of the farmland. Come on, Spy, you can jump over there. Coming? Come on. Well done. That was a big jump for you, eh? As you can see, there's some areas of the forest which have a bit of heavy canopy cover. It's absolutely devoid of vegetation underneath, particularly under these pepperwoods where it's really thick. Nothing grows under here. We'll head this way a bit. As soon as you get a bit of light, of course, get a bit of growth. Here's a big old onga. Nasty. Nasty, nasty. If you're in the bush in a survival situation and you're hunting for edibles and getables, as I like to call them, you should never discount insects. This time of year, of course, you've got cicadas. If you can catch them around the fringes of the forest where you can reach them, absolutely nothing wrong with eating them. Of course, if you made yourself a digging stick and looked around the damp areas under the leaf litter, perhaps around the stream banks, you might find some worms, probably some big native bush worms. They grow big up here like as thick as my finger kind of thing. Fantastic form of protein if you can find them. If you had an axe or machete, of course, you could cut into a dead log, look for some hoo-hoo grubs or any other kind of beetles like that. There's always moths flying around at night, so you never discount things like that that could possibly save you bacon. Certainly won't taste like bacon, but you know, you can't afford to be fussy when you get hungry or when your life depends on it. Not much in here, is there? Get out towards the edge of the forest where there's a bit more light. Chances of finding something else. And I think we'll get down maybe into a wetter gully tomorrow. See if I can't find a few more ferns, because this bush is quite dry. There's some bigger tree ferns, but not a lot as far as edible ferns go. Fiddleheads, of course, are quite edible on a lot of ferns, if you can find them. You can see this forest has actually been logged probably about 100 years ago. There's a classic old stump that's been cut off. Forest is recovering, but it takes a long time. Look at the regen down here. Lovely. This is all red beech growing down here. Okay, I've actually found a coprosma here that's starting to fruit, which is quite early. It has a little edible white berry. So, probably can't see that very well. It's not bad. I mean, looks like the tree's actually gonna, it actually looks like the tree's gonna have quite a lot of fruit on it, so once they all ripen up, if you spent some time here, you'd get a feed, but it'll take a while. They're actually not bad though. Better than nothing. Get into a different part of the forest soon. There's a bit of manuka, of course. It's pretty prolific around here. Well known. Or manuka. Use it as a tea. Strip off a few leaves. You don't need very much. A couple of teaspoons to do it. Makes a good tea. Of course, great smoking wood. Good firewood in general. You can find some nice dry stuff. The little twigs that you get often at the base of the tree. Often there's a whole lot of dead twigs. Like you might get some in here. Like that. Like that. All these bits here. These little bits there. fantastic for getting a fire going. Pick up little bits like that to add to your tinder bundle once you get an ember to ignite, or you start it with a ferro rod. Add these little sticks and they'll really get things cranking. So fantastic. Oh, whew, she's hot. I'll head back towards the house now, see what else we can find. Well, this scrub bush behind me is a mingy mingy, okay? It can be used as a tea. It also has a little berry. This one's got little red berries on it. I have seen it in different colours. It's very small at this stage. But you can see there little red berries. So probably just about edible, but got a lot of growing to do. Yeah, they've got a lot of growing. Edible, but very, very small. Got a lot of growing to do yet. Anyway, I'm going to head into the forest here. See if we can find a bit more diversity of fern life. It's a sort of a wet, damp part of the forest down here. So we'll go down and have a look. See what's there. Okay, I've found a little wee bit of hen and chicken fern. This is, you can see the little, what they call the chickens. There's this new growth of the fern just coming off like that. These little bits here will drop off and grow new ferns on the forest floor. So the hen and chicken fern typically will have a little, some fiddleheads in the middle of the plant, and there's a couple in here, so I'm going to show you those now. So you can see here a little koru, or little fiddlehead, quite edible, and there's a new one here just starting to grow. Okay, to pick those off, clean off the hair a bit and steam them up. We can actually eat them raw as well, but I find they're better steamed and quite edible. So quite often when you find hen and chicken fern, you'll find quite a patch. Usually it's conditions that they like. So I've seen the odd bit round here, so if you look carefully you'd probably actually get quite a feed. There's actually quite a lot, as I say. There's quite a lot of hen and chicken fern right there. Obviously like those conditions. Just trying to find your mamaku. But they're few and far between around here. In fact, I've seen none. So I may have to do a mission tomorrow down towards the river at slightly lower altitude. I mean, you've seen, I've shown mamaku an awful lot on the videos I've done because I've been living off the stuff at times. So you probably are sick to death of seeing what it looks like, but it is potentially a great survival food in the New Zealand bush if there's nothing else, if you can find it. A deer been jumping over here. Obviously been living down here. This little patch, we're on a little plateau, halfway up a gorge. And the deer obviously like these little flat pits, nice and quiet, shady. There's a bit of food, not far from the farmland too, so they can sneak up there at night and get a feed. Wouldn't be surprised if we walk into something, to be honest. It's always the way when you haven't got a rifle. You know what I say, expect the unexpected. Probably be a huge stag. Don't have a knife, don't have a bow, don't have a rifle. I'll have to run it down and bite it between the eyes with my teeth or something. Really dark and gloomy in this particular piece of forest. That's why I came down here thinking there might have been a handy mamaku to show you, but not yet. Nothing. Plenty of tree fern, but not mamaku. That's alright. Well, I've changed locations slightly to try and give you a slightly better variety of vegetation. What I've done is I've dropped about 300 metres in altitude from my house down to a dock reserve, about half an hour's drive from home. I haven't been here before to look for edibles, but I'm hoping there'll be a better selection. Not only because of the drop in altitude, because this scenic reserve doesn't appear to have any browsing animals in it, which will give us a great range of plants, and hopefully, you know, we can find some more edibles. So I have found one already, and this is it, Superjack. So none of this at home, and if you're lucky enough to find Superjack in the forest in the spring and summer, you'll find an edible. So you can see the end of the Superjack's all floppy, and you can break this off very carefully. There's the growing tip, and that'll be like a piece of asparagus. Yeah, not bad. It'll grow very, very fast. So yeah, it's good kai. So if you're lucky enough to find that, good source of food. You can see how dense it is in here without any browsing pressure. Little damp gully like this is where you're going to get a big variety of ferns. Hen and chicken fern. If you poked around here you'd find quite a lot of fiddleheads. New Zealand silver fern, of course. Fantastic, beautiful big tree fern. Also makes a great trail marker. Okay, this is the Reredi fern. I think I've got the pronunciation right, but it's like a very miniature crown fern, but it grows in sort of damp areas around the side of the creeks, tracks like this. And the juvenile foliage, if you can find a bit, you can eat. This is a little bit hard, But the juvenile foliage is often sort of an orangey reddy colour, and it's the new growth, so you can actually chomp on that. So something to bear in mind. It's a little bit different to the crown fern. Crown fern's big and clumpy. This tends to be quite small and a bit thinner, so yeah, keep your eyes open for it. Great food source right there. Cicadas, midsummer, they're everywhere. If you can catch them, you've got to feed. Getting into a different part of the forest here, so there should be some slightly different trees. Look at the bark on this big tote tree here behind me. Big mat of it. It's huge. I mean, you could potentially use this for making a bit of a shelter, or perhaps even find some dry bark underneath there you could crumble up, make a bit of a tinder bundle out of if you're desperate. Yeah, masses of, and probably under there too, there's probably all sorts of insects for fish bait and that kind of thing. Getting into a bit of Tawa here. Tawa forest in the early autumn, or the autumn and early winter, you'll get a few berries. I'm just having a look on the forest floor. There'll be a few berries around. You can eat the flesh of the Tawa berry, and you can actually cook up the kernel, but I haven't done that. So this is a bit of juvenile Tawa growing at the base of a Tawa tree. I'm sure I don't need to remind you what hound's tongue is. You've seen me eat that heaps of times. Grows pretty widespread, a bit like that. Hound's tongue. Not a very good specimen. You need that light green, freshly growing tip of the plant that's nice and pliable. This older leaf is just not digestible. Like that. Yuck. Okay, here's what I've been looking for, is a Tawa berry. They're actually starting to fall on the ground. So deep purple colour when they're ripe. Actually, the flesh of the Tawa is actually not bad. There's a hard kernel inside. So I believe there is a way of cooking that up, but I haven't done it myself. So something to look out for. Prolific in the autumn. Can be all over the show. Yum. You'll notice as I've been walking through the forest, I've deliberately avoided talking about any fungi. It's such a huge topic. There's so many different varieties in our forests. The potential for something to go wrong could be quite high unless you're an expert at it, and I'm not. I try and avoid any fungi unless it's growing out of my paddock, and I don't mind a few mushrooms, but yeah, there are some obvious ones that people eat that I try and avoid it. Perhaps I should school up more on that, but got to be very careful. Okay, well, we're in luck. Here we have a black fern, or the New Zealand mamaku. This is the bit you're looking for, the koru, nice and floppy. You can break that off, peel it, clean all the hairs off it, eat it raw, steam it, dry it in the sun, boil it, edible, and it's better than nothing. It's probably the most, well, I wouldn't say, dare I say good, it's edible, and it'll give you some energy. A little bit slimy, you'll see, very slimy actually, but you boil it up, slime disappears. The fronds, you actually eat the base of the fronds as well, cut them off low, and the first, I don't know, foot or so seems to be right to eat, and the pith of the trunk, if you find one that's fallen over, or if you're in a survival situation, you could, in theory, cut a tree down and stuff. Anyway, that's mamaku. You've seen me eat it heaps of times, potentially better than nothing. There's some katamu that's just starting to come right, nice orange berry. Quite nice actually, if you can get enough for a feed. There's a little hard seed inside. I just spit that out, but you could swallow it. Now here's what I call a New Zealand edible. Goes well with spuds and peas and mint sauce and gravy. Well, that was a bit of a snapshot of what grows in this area and what might be edible. Your area may be slightly different, so do your homework, get out there and have a crack at it, study it up, and each time you go out in the outdoors, just try one or two different things. You'll be surprised how quickly you pick up a little bit of knowledge about edibles in New Zealand. So good luck and thanks for watching.